Tonight, I complete part 2 of how I got into wargaming and what happened next, etc. So here we go. Oh, if you didn't watch part 1, you don't have to watch it if you don't want, but it'd probably be nice if you did. There you go. That'll do. That's as good as it's going to get. The following week, we did the same again, and off we trotted. But I was far more interested in the Napoleonic. So I said to these two chaps, thanks ever so much for letting me join your game. Do you mind if I go and watch this Napoleonic game now? My friend and I, Andy, had been to see Waterloo. You know, the Christopher Plummer, Rod Steiger one? We went to see it like 7 times in a row because you couldn't get them on video, and you couldn't, there was no internet stuff. When they weren't on at the pictures, it was 7 years before they had a chance of even appearing on the television. No cassette players or anything. So we drank it in, and I was all imbibed, bubbling over with Napoleonic excitement. So I like Napoleonic. And I knew a bit about it from the film. I didn't know anything about the Six-Day War, really. I did, because it happened when I was there. Well, no, I wasn't there. I stood in the Six-Day War like, I was alive. So I sort of metamorphosed. No, I didn't do that. Osmosis, a process of osmosis from the news filtered into my head. So I knew what it was. But it didn't really interest me, all this modern tanks and stuff. It interested my dad. He carried on doing that, and my brother carried on doing that. I went off on my own on a little journey, like Marco Polo, and I went back to this chap who'd been nice and friendly about the average dice, and I just sat watching, just politely watching, drinking my coffee out of a paper cup. Why do they call them paper cups when they're plastic? Just a thought. Anyway, drinking my coffee, and this fella said, "Do you want to join in?" I said, "Well, I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never been before." He said, "I'll be right." He said, "Here, look, you have these." And he gave me 10 riflemen with an officer. That's all I had. Big-ish game. As I said, it was a club evening. It was like 7 till 10, so it wasn't the biggest game in the world, but there were still units a lot bigger than my 10. And he said to me, "What I want you to do is just see them buildings over there. I want you to go and I want you to scout them out and come back and tell me what's in them." I thought, "Oh, how do I do that?" So when you move, like it says on this card, it tells you what you can move when it's your turn. And you go to the village, have a little look round, you can look in the buildings. The umpire will tell you what you find, if anything. And then report back, just come back to me and tell me. So, it's quite exciting, isn't it? That's not just like plain soldiers. Something happening here. And while I'm doing this, there's other things happening. And then I got quite close to the village. It was sort of 2 houses and a shed with some cattle round it, and then a couple of trees. They were railway model trees, so they had blossom on them, like cherry trees. And a low wall, which again was railway scenery, sort of quite flat. Nowadays you wouldn't even use it, I don't think, but it was, it was better than I'd ever seen. And as I approached this village, all of a sudden a Frenchman jumped up, not literally, a model. This guy on the other side, he put a Frenchman there. Wow. And he had a yellow and green plume on his hat. So, and I'd seen them in the film Waterloo, and I knew they went ahead of the main force. So I thought, oh, it's full of soldiers, this. So my riflemen all engaged this chap, and we had a firefight over the wall. I killed him, and he didn't kill any of mine. So I thought, oh, there might be loads of them. So I crept up, and I went slowly, and umpire said, "What are you doing?" I said, I'm advancing really carefully. He said, oh, you want to go in open order? Go skirmish order. Your rifles, you can go to skirmish order. Put your men further apart. I did that. And I snuck up. I got to the wall. I sent one man. I said, can I send one man over the wall to check out this fella? He said, oh, yeah. So I put one man over the wall. He searched him. And he didn't have much. But I didn't know much. So I took the feathers off his hat. Snapped it off. I said, can I do that? He said, yeah. I said, right. So I said, okay, I'm gonna send a couple of men of my 10. I'm gonna send 4 of them just a bit further into the village. But I'm being really careful and quiet and cautious. He said, oh, you can make them crawl if you want. I thought, wow, how do I do that? He said, well, just tell me they're crawling. I said, they're crawling. He said, oh, no rest, what are they? Well, I said, can they lie down? He said, oh, yeah. I said, I love the lying down. So I did that. I crawled off. Anyway, I searched these buildings. There was nobody there. For ages I were there, looking, peeping through windows. Nothing. But anyway, I came back. I had the common sense to come back. So I came back, and I said to the guy commanding my British forces, a colonel he was, supposedly, on a horse, big horse like that. And he said, oh, I hear you back, what did you find? And I went, I found this. And he went, oh, voltigeurs, how many were there? I said, 1. He said, 1? I said, yeah. He said, did you check that village? I said, yeah, we went in buildings and everything. We snooked about. I've got grass stains on my knees. I didn't say any of that. I was too shy. It's what I'd say now, right? So I said, yeah, I've checked it out. I looked in the buildings. I went through doors. I went in open order. I did all sorts. I'm sure there's no one else in the village. He said, oh, that's odd. I said, I'll have to think about that. But you take your rifleman, he said, and go back to the village, but this time go in the buildings and stay in them, and I want you to, like, you can make firing holes in the walls and point guns through windows and hide, but be ready just in case. He said, I don't like the fact there was 1 French voltigeur in that building, in that village. He might have been doing what you're doing, he said. So off I went. And I did that. And then about half an hour before the end of the night, about 9:30, nearly 10 o'clock-ish, all of a sudden the French player put on about another 8 or 9 voltigeurs ran into the village. I thought, what? I've been sat all night doing nothing, drinking coffee. So where did they come from? But again, from watching Waterloo, I thought, I don't want to shoot at them yet, because I don't want to give the game away. What are they up to? So I had to wait. And sure enough, they didn't stop. They like ran to the end of the village, to the wall, and ducked down. But then I heard the umpire said to me, you can hear drums. So, where they coming from? He went over there where the voltigeurs have just been. Oh, flipping heck. What am I going to do now? And then the voltigeurs climbed over the wall and they kept going. But when the colonel of the British said to the umpire, oh, voltigeurs, the umpire said, no, you can't see them yet. You don't know they're there. They're hugging the ground, there's little hillocks, and they're making the best use of cover. You don't know they're coming. So we couldn't, he said, you can't do anything. Tough. Then, next move, French column appears in the village with tricolours and golden eagles and drums beating and this chap on a horse. I thought, this is my moment, so I opened fire. I opened fire with everything I got, from every window, from every angle, which I suppose did 2 things. It alerted my troops, my allies, to the fact that something was going on. And I killed a couple. If you've played Games Workshop, got it on my brain. If you've played War Games Research Group, we were playing, every figure was 33 thirds. So for every 33 factors on your table, you got 1 man. If you only got like 29, you didn't take a man off. We added it on for next time. But at least I might not have brought down any physical figures, but I caused the column to engage me. They couldn't leave me just popping out of buildings and stuff. And the umpire wisely didn't tell them what I'd got, so they didn't know whether they were facing 10 or 20. And they didn't even know if I was rifles at the start, but it got hot, I'll say that. But the game ended, and I was still alive in the village with a decent number of men. And afterwards, the lad who had been the British colonel said, "Oh, thank you, did all right, good job then." I said, "Oh, didn't think I did much." He said, "No, I couldn't have asked for anybody to do that better." He said, "It was perfect. It made me feel that good. This old bloke, he'd be younger than me. I mean, I'm 70. Be, what, 45, 50. I felt on top of the world. I don't think an adult had ever, where I lived, said anything so genuine to me, ever. And it was only a little thing. He just said, "Thanks, you did well." He said, "Are you coming next week?" Oh, I said, I am, I'd love to. He said, "Well, come and join our army." Then the following week he said, "Why don't you get some figures of your own? You get them from the stamp corner in town. Go to the stamp corner, go downstairs, and the young lad that serves in the stamp corner on a Saturday, he comes to the club. I'll point him out when he's not at uni. And you can get your figures, and you can get paint from Woolworths and brushes. And you just, for now," he said, "just paint them basic colours." He said, what do you fancy doing?" I said, "Well, I wondered about getting British like you." And he said, "No, don't do that." He said, "Loads of people at this club have got British. Loads of people at this club have got French. Be Prussians." I said, "What colour do they wear?" He said, "Grey." I said, "Oh, okay." He said, "Imagine like the First World War German army, but not their helmets." Oh, okay. And he said, "And when it comes to like the collars and cuffs," and he showed me what he meant on his figures. He said, "Paint them yellow, and that'll be your unit then." He said, "Eventually you'll need about 30. He said, "And they're not cheap, but if you get a few every week or whenever you can afford them, it'll add up." So I just thought, "Oh well, yeah, I'll get some Prussians." Now the following week I've gone to the stamp corner on the Saturday, and I bought 3. That's all I could afford. I bought 3 Prussians, just infantrymen, because he'd said don't get officers and things, because as your painting improves, you don't want to paint your officers first because your painting will be rubbish. Paint your officers last because they'll be nice and smart, or smarter in my case. So he said, "Don't try anything fancy. Paint more grey. Give them flesh-coloured faces and hands. Do those collars and cuffs like I've told you. Any black bits, brown bit for a rifle. Bish bash bosh, you done." So okay. So by the following week I'd done them. So I had them in a little margarine, like a biscuit tin, but I packed it up with all paper and stuff. And I got to the club and he said, "Oh, did you thought about what you're getting?" I said, "I got these." And I showed him them. I bet they were rubbish. I wish I still had them, but I can't remember. I have got, the earliest figure I've got, I got about a year later, and it was a fantasy eagle. And I've still got him painted exactly as I painted him about a year later as comparison. So I'll show you that sometime. In fact, I've shown it on some previous videos, but I'll dig it out sometime. And he said, "Oh, that's fantastic." No criticism. He said, "The only rule we have at this club," he said, "is, are they your best? Have you done the best you can?" I said, "Yeah, I think I have." He said, "Well, there you are, you've done it. Fantastic." He said, "Well, I've got your present. He said, I thought if you came back, I'd give you something." I said, "Oh, that's kind of you." And he gave me 10 Prussians that he'd painted. So suddenly I had 13. I had almost half a force. I had more than I'd had the previous week with these British rifles. And he said, "And what you can do now, with that 13, like you use the rifles, you could be like a contingent, like a company or a platoon of Prussians that have been sent to help me." So he says, you can use your Prussians instead of using my stuff. And over time I got rules, and I got average dice. Still got my original average dice, got no numbers on it, but I still got it. And I got my own rules. And I ended up, finally got to me 30 Prussians. And I got an officer, and I got a standard bearer and a drummer. And then I got 12 cavalry eventually. I got them in 4s. Well, I didn't even do that because they were so expensive. Probably got one a week for 12 weeks. Probably weren't even 12 weeks. It was probably more like 15 with rambling. And then I got a gun. So over time, and he showed me tips. You know, the reason why they keep falling down is because you want to put them on a base. Just, you know, cut a bit of plastic or a bit of cardboard. We use that, just cornflake packets. Chop them up, stick it on there, and you can get this stuff flock from railway shops, different colours. Put a bit of glue on, sprinkle it on. Job's done. So yeah, so that's sort of like my first memories, and I played that for a long time. I played that really for a full year exclusively. I did 25mm Napoleonic with that group of men, and they taught me so much, and I'm so grateful. But my dad taking me to the club was the first catalyst. Second catalyst was the man who's Dad's friend who said, sit down here and play with us with the 300 scale. And the third one was just this fella who made me feel welcome and then said, well done, that was good. I don't know if I've ever influenced anybody like that. They gave me a lifetime of happiness, memories, pleasure, useful occupation. I've been a teacher running war games clubs and fantasy clubs. My own kids would all do it. I do it every day. Every single day I do something to do with wargaming. And it all links back to that one day on that drizzly Doncaster evening in 1972 when I went to the War Games Club just so that once a week I could have a war game. It's been a bit long this, hasn't it? Sorry. Anyway, you know me. You're either gonna love it or you never even watched this far, so either way, ta-ra, choke.